Hi, kitty cats. I am Amethysta Herrick. The topic today of the live stream is I have a transgender life and I want you to ask me anything. So, my name is Amethysta Herrick. I am an author and a podcaster, and I have 3 URLs below that you can check out. The very first one is my personal webpage. So that's that's where you can find like my social media accounts, and you can follow me there if you choose. The second one down is my professional website, genderidentitytoday.com, and that one has all of my podcasts, all of my articles, everything I wrote. You can find those there. The last one down, by the way, I should say, at genderidentitytoday.com, I also accept contributions. If you have podcasts or if you have an article that you want to write, I would love it if you if you sent it to me. And you can do that by using that first one again, amethysta.io, and contact me. It'd be great. The last one there is just a tip page, coffee.com Amethysta. So if you choose to support anything I do, then I will be very pleased. I gotta admit, I'm a little bit scattered. I did not get a chance to glow up. I'm not going to mince words about this. I was being intimate for the first time since surgery, which is pretty fun. I'm just going to throw it out there. All right, so my wife is cringing at the moment. I know it. She's just going to come down here and bust through the door. Cut it out. All right, so the topic today is an Ask Me Anything. If you have questions about being transgender, what it's like to be transgender, gender transition, whatever, put them in the chat because I would love to answer them for you. I do have 3 questions right off the bat, but I will tell you at any point during this live stream, this one's for you. I didn't prepare a lecture. Some of you may be going, oh, thank goddess, because, Jesus. But I'd love it if you had some questions, drop them in the chat, and I will address them as quickly as I can. So the first question that I do have, I ended up getting a total of 3. I think I said that. Told you I'm a little flustered. The first question that I got is just simply, when did I first know I was transgender? And this is a really, really great question for what it's worth, because there are many answers to this. When I was a kid, when I was probably 4 years old, let's say, I could tell that I was different. I'm not going to say that means I knew I was transgender. I'm going to say I noticed that people treated me differently than they did my sisters, because I have 3 sisters. I grew up with 3 sisters, and I could tell that they were treated in a way that I was not. And so at the very least, I knew I was different. But I don't think, when I say when did I know, or when the question is when did I know I was transgender, I think you need to have a concept of what cisgender would be at that point. And I don't think I did, because I hadn't really understood, the ins and outs of what it means to be a boy or be a girl. Certainly by the time I was 8 years old, it was really clear that I was being treated differently. And then by the time I reached puberty, holy cats, that was not a fun time. So I would say when I knew I was transgender, I would say, by the time I hit puberty and I realized I was changing in ways that the other people around me were not, that's when it got extremely obvious. And I would say it was, so I don't know, 12 to 14. I don't remember exactly when I started puberty, but I would probably say in that area, 12 to 14. That was when I knew that the body I had didn't match the person I knew I was on the inside. I am on the inside. So now that being said, there's a distinction between knowing you're transgender and like really truly accepting it. And I would say I took probably another, 10 years. I know that in the summer of 1994, I was 24 years old. I woke up one day and I remember looking out the window and just coming to complete peace with who I was. That doesn't mean I loved myself. That's different. But I definitely accepted that my gender was not what other people expected it to be. So I would say that's probably the best answer I got. By 4, I knew I was different. By 8, I could tell that there was something, wrong, I'm going to go with. By puberty, I could tell the body didn't match who I knew I was. And by 24 years old, I had completely accepted who I was. I didn't have the word transgender. It was 1994. I don't know what words we necessarily used in 1994 because I wasn't really even looking for one. But there you go. That was when I first knew I was transgender. So if you're just joining, this is an Ask Me Anything. By all means, plop a question in the chat if you choose. If you have a question about being transgender, transitioning gender, what it's like, pretty much ask me anything. I think that's what Ask Me Anything means. So, all right. Question number 2 that I've already gotten that somebody sent me. The question was, is it difficult to transition gender? And like the first one, when I said there were multiple answers to this, same thing. Is it difficult? The hardest part of transitioning gender, to my mind, has been accepting that you're allowed to do it. There are probably others out there, and maybe somebody can confirm or deny, but I think that was the worst part of it for me. It was the biggest barrier to me transitioning gender was just getting going, just starting going, because it's hard. We grow up. I mean, certainly by 8 years old, I knew that I was not fulfilling certain social obligations. I was terrible at baseball. I was terrible at sports in general. I just wasn't a very, masculine kid. I mean, not a surprise at this point, frankly, but so we know that we're failing to fulfill social expectations. And so as a result, I think there's a lot of shame that builds up. I mentioned there was no guilt about who I was. So I didn't have to surmount this piece of guilt that I was transgender. But there is, when you go through life and pretty much everybody tells you you're not doing what you're supposed to do, that's tough. So I think that's the hardest part. Hey, Erica. I think that's the hardest part of transitioning gender. First of all, just accepting that you're able to do it. There's actually a book by Mia Violet, and I'm hoping, hi Mia, by the way. I'm hoping I get a chance to interview Mia on my podcast. We're working out logistics, but anyway, Mia has a book that the title is just simply "Yes, You Are Trans Enough," and it's her journey to accepting that she can do this, that she can transition gender, and ultimately she does. That's why the title of the book is "Yes, You Are," but that is one of the biggest questions. I think we always end up, we go, okay, well now I'm transgender. Now what? So the now what part, I think, ends up just being implementation details. There is a whole checklist of things that you can do. You can do a social transition. You can do a medical transition. You can do both of them at once. You can do them, in any order. But ultimately, you have to change your name and your gender marker on various documents. And depending on where you are, that can really suck. I'm here in Colorado, and it was very easy for me to do it. Changing my California birth certificate, on the other hand, was very difficult. Well, at least very long. So there's that social aspect to it. There is, what it takes actually to check off those boxes. And then in the meantime, there is a medical transition. I have been taking hormones now, estrogen, for a little more than 2 years, 2 years and a few months. And so that changed my body, changed my, I started growing breasts, it redistributed fat all over me. And so now I have a big old butt. Becky actually talks about me behind my back. So maybe that's good. But in any event, so that much is easy. Getting the hormones, well, not getting the hormones, depending on where you are, but starting to take the hormones, that's easy. It was kind of hard for me to learn how to inject myself, but once I got that down, no problem. The next really hard part is waiting, because it's not fast. It takes forever for these hormones to start to do something. And I responded actually pretty quickly. I started to respond within the first month of receiving hormone replacement therapy. And I was still, by 6 months in, I'm just like, when's this going to be done? Come on. What's happening here? Why is this not happening more quickly? So that much is difficult too. So that's medical stuff. I did go and get surgery. Any surgery is challenging, I will certainly say, especially because I flew from the United States to Thailand to do this. But any surgery is challenging, but again, it was another box to tick off. The hardest part, once you've accepted that you're allowed to do this, I think, are all the hoops that everybody else makes you jump through. I live in the United States, and, in Colorado, it was fairly easy, but in other states in the United States, not true. Like, I don't think you can change your name or gender marker at all if you're in Tennessee at this point. I don't think you can get hormone replacement therapy if you're in Texas. So it's very difficult for some transgender women and men, for that matter. Hey, Galadriel. And so hey, Christine, by the way, sorry. So it's very difficult just to get to the point where the medical establishment will help you. I was old enough and I live in an informed consent state, so I had little barrier to starting hormone replacement therapy, but that isn't the same for everybody. So yes, there are some big major hoops to jump through, because then, you still have all the other social expectations. I mentioned there was some shame around not fulfilling social expectations earlier. Now you get even more, right? Because now you're going to a doctor and you say, "Doctor, I'm a woman." And the doctor looks at you like, oh, God, what are you? So now you're being shamed just for being who you are. You've already made the decision that you're going to go and talk to somebody. So this is why, if I may, I highly recommend online hormone therapy clinics. There are transgender clinics all over. Folks is one of them, folx.com. True You is another one, trueyouclinic.com. There are a lot of resources so that you can get the help you need, but that's difficult too. All right, I think I covered that one as well as I wanted to. Once again, if anybody has any questions, it's an Ask Me Anything, an AMA. I feel like I'm suddenly, Simon Sinek, or, hey, ask me anything. All right, the last question I have here, and if something pops up, I will absolutely use that as well. But the last question that somebody sent me, I think is a pretty interesting and important one. The question is just, would I ever want to go back, to the beginning of my life and be born cisgender? And I think that's a very profound question. It's hard for me to answer at this point. When if you were to have asked me 2 years ago, when I started this process, when I was starting to get, some of the ridiculous, just all the pain of having to talk to, the court, talk to people, whatever it was, everything that heaps shame upon you for being the person you are, for beginning to the process of transitioning gender. If you had asked me when I was going through that, it would not have, I would have said, yes, I wish I had been born cisgender. And Genevieve says, it was difficult for me to talk to my GP about getting HRT. Yeah, I mean, that was in part why I wanted to go with somebody online, so that I wouldn't have to look somebody in the eye, as it were. I mean, it was a video chat, but I was still like, gosh, I don't want to have to go. Crazy thing, by the way, an interesting tidbit. My GP, at some point when I transitioned gender, first of all, they didn't recognize me, which was, is one of the best compliments anybody can pay you. That they go, wait, you were who? Oh, holy cats, look at you. Anyway, once he figured out who I was, he said, did you know that I was the only person doing transgender care in northern Colorado in the 1990s? And I was like, oh, wow, cool. So turns out he would have been a great, resource for that. Of course, he probably would have actually referred me off somewhere else, because then when I asked him to take it over, he says, it's been a while. I don't really feel comfortable. So there's that. But return to the question, would I ever want to go back? Yes, there have been barriers I had to surmount, sucking it up and getting HRT, waiting the whole time until HRT sort of kicks in, going through the legal ridiculousness of changing your name and then mailing stuff off for changing my birth certificate. All of that, I still continue to get mail addressed to my old name. I get email addressed to my old name. So there were a lot of ridiculous hoops I had to jump through. And then, I was scheduled to get gender affirming surgery in the US. That crapped out. So then I had to start looking at medical tourism elsewhere, for what it's worth, by the way. I say that like I'm a little bit bitter, and I was at the time, but now that I've come back from Thailand and seen the work that I got there, I'm very glad that I went to Thailand, actually, because I think I got better work for cheaper, for less money. The end on that. But so that was all difficult, all the healing and whatever. There is also the continuing, I don't want to say pain, there's the continuing, saga of transgender rights and transgender treatment here, at least in the United States, certainly in the UK. There are places in like the Middle East and even just northeastern, like Eastern Europe, where being transgender is a death sentence. So would I want to be cisgender had I been born there? Absolutely. But all of these barriers that I've jumped at this point, all the hoops I've gone through, there's that famous quote by Friedrich Nietzsche, that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. I don't agree with that entirely. I believe the better way to express that is that which didn't kill me showed me the strength that was already there. My point on this is to say that having gone through all of these things, I now see the ridiculous treatment that transgender people get in the world today. And I'm pissed off about that, at the very least. I'm pissed off about it. And so what I'm trying to do, the reason why I do live streams like this, podcasts that I do that are, released every Friday, the articles that I've written for running on 2 years, the reason why I do all this is because I want to change that. Because it's very difficult being transgender. And so finally, to answer this question, I realize I spent 5 minutes just talking around it. No. No, I do not want to go back and be born a girl. Because if I went back to my childhood and I was born a girl, I would not have this opportunity now. I would not have the experience that I did about how difficult it is living as I was, hiding who I was, going through, a 25-year career, masking that whole thing. Then the steps to begin transition, to go through the transition, to see the discrimination in our medical system against transgender people, to see the discrimination in the industry, to have talked with so many people and get their stories that confirm all of mine about how poorly transgender people are treated in this world, no way. No way would I want to go back, because I wouldn't have this opportunity to change it. And I don't say this frequently enough, I'm sure, but that's my mission now. That's my purpose in life. My purpose in life is to make sure that everybody who comes after me has it much more easily than I do. Because it's unfair. The treatment that the transgender people get is absolutely unfair. And I think anybody who's listening right now who is transgender or is questioning their gender, you can confirm this. It's pretty ridiculous. So yeah, sum up that one. Would I want to go back? Not at all, because now I have the ability to affect the world in ways I don't think I would have had if I had been born a girl. There were many things I think would have been easier, but my path now is to help everybody else get through this better than I did. So yeah, that one might have gotten a little emotional there, but so those are the three questions I had. Once again, I got an Ask Me Anything going on, and I got 9 minutes. Is there anything anybody wants to hear? I could probably make something up, but if somebody drops a question, that would be cool. Because one thing, actually, I mean, if you drop a question, no doubt I'm going to stop talking about this, but one thing that I was asked the other day, I was on a podcast yesterday about the misunderstanding between sex and gender, or really that much of Western society equates these two. That if you have certain chromosomes, it guarantees you're going to have a certain sex, which is going to guarantee a certain gender, which will guarantee a certain sexuality. And I think just that one point there, that sort of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric of the identity of going across that, a causal chain and a chain of identity, plays into every single one of the questions that I was just asked, or the questions that I was asked, because you don't know you're transgender, because the prevailing attitude is that you have chromosomes, you have physical structure, you must be this. And I never agreed with that. I mean, I ended up going on to study genetics, right? I studied genetics, I studied chemistry. I continue to do this research today on what it means to be transgender from a physical standpoint, an emotional, a cognitive, behavioral. I continue to do this. That rhetoric certainly plays into why it is difficult to transition gender. Nobody wants to transition gender. Each of us has to. This isn't something that we go, this will be a lark. This will be fucking grand. Yeah, what I'm going to do is get myself absolutely ostracized from society so that I can, grow a pair of boobs. None of us wants to do that. Each of us has to. So, and then, to apply it to this last one, would I ever want to go back? No, because I have to fight that belief. I have to fight the belief that genetics defines our identity, because it's untrue. Thank you, Lunison. It's untrue. And if we continue down this path, as a society, we're screwed. We're really screwed. Because, and maybe call me a Chicken Little, call me a conspiracy theorist, call me whatever you want. What's the last bit? Just don't call me late for dinner. Angela, I'm going to answer that one sec. What I observe now, if you have legislation about identity, and that's what these are, right? If you have laws that say, well, we're going to make it law that physical structure defines identity, it's a slippery slope. I know I'm sounding sort of Nazi conspiracy theorist at the moment, but it's a slippery slope to say if you're going to target one identity as illegal, it's a slippery slope, and we would head down a very difficult path. Hi, oh my, kiss caps lock. Hi. All right. Let me take this one question. So let's see. How do I handle being misgendered, or am I stealth now? That's an excellent question. So I finished my social transition. So it's really presenting as a woman full time in about March of 2023. So it's been about a year and a half. In that year and a half, I've been misgendered, and that I know of anyway, that somebody said something to me. It's happened twice. I don't think that means I'm phenomenal. I think it means that, I studied my sisters when I was a child. I studied women my whole life. I've been, expressing this for a long time. Your question, though, was how do I handle it? Because it has happened twice. And both, so the first time I wrote an article about it because it stung. Oh my gosh, the idea that somebody would be able to tell, ooh, it stung. And then when it was actually a TSA person who called me sir on the way to Thailand, which is kind of weird. I handed him a passport, right? You can look at it. It's got an F on it, got a feminine name on it. But so that's that part. It stings. How do I handle it? Not very well, because it's difficult. It's difficult to put a lot of effort into something and then have somebody ignore it. That hurts. The second part of your question, am I stealth now? I think the quick answer is no. I do not purposely, I'm not walking into the hardware store with a top that says, kiss me, I'm transgender. I'm not telling people that. I'm not walking places and just leading off with that to say, hi, I'm transgender. Because I don't see a need. I don't want to lead with that because a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. So, but what I will do is if somebody asks me, I will absolutely say yes. And typically if I'm starting to meet somebody, I'm starting to make friends with somebody, I will bring it up because I think it's not because I think they deserve it. Because somebody asked me a question. What if I went to a bar and I picked up a man? Do I have a moral obligation to tell him I'm transgender? And my answer is no. Absolutely not. No more than he has a moral obligation to tell me what his favorite vegetable is. Because why would I? Just because my identity is different from his doesn't mean I have to walk around with it as a big red letter T on my around my neck. So, am I stealth? No, I don't try to be stealth, but I will. I won't tell anybody unless kind of it comes up and I want to be friends with them. So there's that part. The other part is that the reason why I would tell people, the reason I want to tell people ultimately is because I want to be a good, would I just call it, all right, well, Scott Richardson, I'm so glad you showed up then. Anyway, the point I was going to go to is that it's important to me because I want to be a good representative of the transgender community, which clearly I didn't do right there with Scott Richardson, who said, it's pretty obvious, dude. Thanks, man. When you have a big title that says I'm transgender, it is pretty obvious, right? Because I told you. But hey, you do you, man. So I want to be a good representative because I swear I've had people where somebody came up to me. I spent probably an hour talking with two women at one point, and somebody came up to me and who did know I'm transgender, and he hadn't seen me in a while, 6 months, 9 months, I don't know. But he shows up and he says, wow, you look so much better. You've really changed over the past 6 months. You sound differently, you look differently. wow, it's really amazing. Like, I would never know. And I went, cool. And then I turned to the other two people and I said, so I was just kind of forcibly outed. I'm transgender. And both of the two women went, oh God, really? Okay. I mean, I've been talking to him for an hour. Of course, we'd talked about nail polish and hair dye. So, maybe it was stuff that they're like, well, no man could do this. And I didn't because I'm not a man. But like Eowyn, I am no man. So hopefully, Angela, that answered the question well enough. I don't do well with being misgendered just because if it's being done, at least at this point, it's being done maliciously, most likely maliciously. And I don't think that's cool. I don't think it's cool at all just to walk in on somebody and go, you know what? You told me who you are, but I'm going to ignore it. I think that's mean. Regarding being stealth, I mean, most places I go, I pass pretty well. But if I have the opportunity to represent the transgender community, I want to. Sorry, I had to take a drink and then cough. All right. Ooh, Louise transitioned in the 1970s. Wow, you've been stealth for 40 years. Okay, so Louise Richardson, I transitioned in the 1970s. I've been mostly stealth for 40 years. It hasn't been perfect, but I've survived. Scott doesn't have to happen to be a relative, does he? So I will say something. So the reason why I made this decision, so Louise, thank you for this story, first of all, because really phenomenal story. The reason why I ended up making that decision, that if I was going to be friends with somebody, I wanted to tell them. I met somebody, so it was like summer, it was the end of summer 2023, actually. So I'd only been socially transitioned for like, 4 months, 5 months, somewhere in that area, maybe 6 months. But I met somebody and, I was like, hey, well, let's hang out for the afternoon. Come on, let's go get lunch. And the person goes, yeah, sure, we'll go get lunch. And we're walking and she says, do you have any kids? And I said, yes, we have one son. And she goes, oh, yeah, I had, hey, Shay. She says, oh, yeah, I've got 2 kids. I decided I was going to hold off after 2 kids because, childbirth. Am I right? And I went, oh. So my partner gave birth to the kid. And because I had already told her I had a same-sex marriage, but I was like, how do I get around this? And Louise, I'd love to hear more of your story, but the thing is, oh, Shay, thank you so much. 2 roses, that was lovely. It was, shoot, where was I going? Oh, I ended up being exhausting because then she's asking me other questions. I grew up in Los Angeles, Southern California in the 1970s. And so she's asking me questions. Well, what was it like to be, in Los Angeles as a girl? It must have been frightening. And I'm like, yeah. It was exhausting. Okay, so there you go. This is a great question, Angela. So in any event, so do I want to be stealth? I felt like it was exhausting. I only spent 3 hours with this person before I called her the next day and said, listen, I'm going to tell you something. I was assigned male at birth. And I just want you to know that because you asked me some questions that I fumbled, and that's why. So, but that's where that's where all that comes in. So, Louise, I will just tell you, I have 100% respect for you to have been able to be stealth for 40 years. Absolutely. And so, Angela, so 35 years mostly stealth. So Angela Walker-Scott here also has been stealth for a long time. So both of you, gosh, I mean, congratulations, ladies. I think it would have been just completely exhausting. So let me look at this. So Angela also asks, so she says anybody she tells asks for the old name and then asks the question, would I tell them my old name? I'm going to I'm going to contradict you, Angela, and hopefully that doesn't affect our friendship. We can still be buddies. I hope we can still be sisters. I'm going to say yes. I don't mind telling people my old name. And the reason why I don't is because I don't want people with my old name to hold power. And it's really when you live in a social environment and there are people who know something about you, know anything about you, there is the possibility of abusing that power. So I have no trouble, because I mean, a couple of people have surfaced photographs of me. There's one that I cannot believe that I know is from like 2014, that if you look up my old name, for some reason, this really horrible, when I'm super fat picture shows up where I look really just terrible and completely miserable. Of course, I was fat and miserable in 2014, but you know, so a picture of me has already surfaced, and you know, there are some people who want to go, because I'll say it, because my old name was Robert, which, by the way, I don't even like to say. I can't say the B word very well, or the B sound. I don't know why. It's the goofiest thing. But I don't mind telling people the old name, just because otherwise I'm going to end up, you know, I've seen other transgender women, they'll show, somebody will make a Twitter post or something. Hey, did you see this? Oh my God, crazy friggin' people, you know, and I don't want to give people that power. It's ridiculous. So, all right, Louise. So Lightsaber, give me one quick sec. So Louise says she transitioned in San Francisco area from 75 to 77. Really awesome. So I'm dying to know. You'll have to type this, unfortunately. I wish I could invite you into this, but I'm curious how hard it was. Because like in Colorado, I got fingerprinted. They did a quick felony background check, and then they're like, go at it. It took literally 26 hours for my name change to be approved by a judge, and that was it. And gender marker. The hardest part was actually sending off to California, which cost me like $100. And then I waited, no joke, 4 months. I was like, wow, is it really that hard? So I'd love to hear that, Louise, if you have any more, or, you know, or if you want, by all means, oh gosh, even in Texas, holy cats. So even if you want, if you use the top link here, amethysta.io, please feel free to reach out to me from my contact page. It'd be great to connect. So, all right, to get Lightsaber's question here, what do people think they know about trans people that they don't really know? Oh, that's a really good question. I think most people think that so there are two things. And I'm going to tie this in with sexuality, because I think sexuality, gender and sexuality are related. And I don't want to talk about that immediately, but you know, the two of them are related. And where I'm going to go with this is say, when I first came out as pansexual, so I was 24. And so I was in graduate school in a chemistry department at University of Georgia. You know, it'd be interesting if any of those people from the chemistry department even remembered me now. They probably remember me. But anyway, when I came out as pansexual, I remember I had a couple of like man friends come up to me and go, listen, you know, they gave me a look. Listen, I don't care if I said it was bisexual at the time, but they go, I don't care if you're bisexual, just don't hit on me. Like there was a danger, right? Like this was really like, sure. And every single person, I said, you know what? I have a name for this. It's called the presumptuousness of the heterosexual. Like, why would you think I'm going to hit on you? Do I hit on every girl I see? No. Would I hit on every man I see? No. So you're safe. And by the way, you are not at all my type. You know, there was one guy I remember, because it was Georgia, right? So remember some guy who always had a big ass hat and like this the biggest, roundest head I've ever seen. It was like Charlie Brown, only real. It's the craziest thing. Right, like I even wanted them, Shay. It's ridiculous. So, anyway, that's one thing. So we'll say with that. That's one thing that I think many people believe about transgender people is that it is like sexuality. That if I want to be a woman, it must mean I like men. And that's huge. I know some people still do this. I get a crap. I was, now that I'm saying I'm pansexual, because now people go, well, why are you married to a woman? And I'm like, well, because we've been together for 24 years. I love my wife. I mean, why would I transition gender? That doesn't mean I transition sexuality. But an interesting tidbit is many transgender women, and I'm not saying all of them by any means, but several transgender women I know, once they began the process of transition, started looking at their sexuality a little differently. And as a result, thought, maybe I'll experiment with men. I experimented with men in the 1990s, and I'm not saying I'm not saying I didn't like it, but certainly I prefer women at the end of this. So there you go. All right, let me catch up on a couple of things. So Louise Richardson was able even to get a California driver's license, or Texas driver's license. Stunning. All right, so Angela, you moved 30 years ago from, oh, okay. So you moved 30 years ago from where you were, and being stealth has been easy because nobody could have even had the chance. What's crazy though, I got to tell you, oh gosh, I don't know what your name is. It looks like Broccoli. Broccoli, thank you. Thank you for your praise there. Love the content. Love my hair. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So the 30 years ago, like I said, it seemed exhausting to me to try to be stealth. I'm not saying that either you or Louise is in the wrong for doing this. I'm saying that when people, I don't want to rewrite my history. It seems like, and I don't, because I've already done some. I mean, I know I have, but I haven't. Oh, hey, Jamie. I know I've already rewritten some of my history, but I just don't, it's hard. Like the idea of this always having to do that. Every time somebody would say, well, tell me what it was like when you were a kid or something like that. I don't want to have to deal with that. It just seems easier to go, listen, when I was a kid, I presented as a boy. And I don't criticize, I'm not being critical of either you, Angela, or you, Louise, but certainly I feel it would be just too difficult for me. Like, I think it would be really hard. So that's all that. So I was going to shut this down 13 minutes ago, but then I got some great questions. Is there anything more? Because I will absolutely keep going for as long as people want to ask me questions. I just got to call out. I'm looking at Phoenix. Oh, I thought it was Phoenix down. I was going to say, listen, if I fall in battle, Phoenix down, you will revive me, right? Oh, Phoenix left though. If anybody, hopefully somebody got the Final Fantasy joke there. But if you didn't, that's fine. Phoenix down revives you in a battle. The end. So actually I want to keep on going. Oh gosh, actually Nick, perfect. Because this is where I was going to go. So sorry, everybody. Nick says, why do I think pushing mental illness on people is acceptable? What a beautiful question. This is not being asked, I believe, in the sense of kindness. I have the sense Nick is asking me, why am I pushing my mental illness by thinking I'm a woman when so clearly I am not because of my XY genotype? Why do I think that's acceptable? So thanks very much for the pissy comment. But there was one other thing that I was going to say to Lightsaber. What do people think they know about trans people that they don't really know? That this is not a mental illness. I know that it's really easy just simply to look at somebody and go, you know what? I don't like what that person's doing, so that person must be effed up. I know it's easy to do that. It's very easy to do that. But I'm going to, I have a question that I love asking, that if I ask you, maybe it'll demonstrate a point. And that the question is just like, think in your head, what's your favorite vegetable? Ask yourself in your head, what's your favorite vegetable? Once you've got it, if I just said, no, it isn't, what it is eggplant, you're able to tell me, no, it isn't. Like, I know this. Like, I know what my favorite vegetable is. And if I were to ask you why, maybe you'd say, let's say you said broccoli. Who the hell cares? But if you said it's broccoli, I would say, well, why do you like broccoli? And you would go, oh, well, it's this. It's because of this, because of this, because of this. And at the end of it, you get to a point where I'm going to say why, and you have to go, you know what? Just because. Because. That's it. What I'm trying to demonstrate here is that each of us has a core set of knowledge that we know. We just know this. And I get it. Maybe you go, yeah, but my favorite vegetable's different from like going and getting surgery for a vagina. Okay, granted. They differ in magnitude, not in kind. If you're allowed to own your favorite vegetable, for fuck's sake, I am able to own what is important to me. And what is important to me is presenting as a woman. But here's my point. What that says is that each of us has to discover our identity. We have to discover this. It's inside. It's not something that somebody else hands to you. If somebody handed it to you, sure. Maybe I buy that it could be that it could be, you have some sort of illness, whatever. I'm not even sure how to put it. But the point is that we own this and nobody else does, which means that I went through my own struggles with gender. Jamie, Shay, Aim, and Nick, who may still be, listening and chortling, you went through that. You had to figure out your identity. You had to figure out your gender. Louise, Genevieve, Lightsaber, everybody, we have to do this. That's what identity is. You find this. You're not given it. So is it mental illness for people to find out who they are and express it? Especially is it mental illness if you're doing the same goddamn thing and you just don't like what I do? I would contend that you wanting to shove something on me is more of a form of narcissism, more of a mental illness than anything I could have possibly done. How do I feel about adults in the trans community pushing this agenda on children? So if you can find me someplace where this agenda is being pushed, if you can find me the actual agenda, so if you can write something up and send it to me, the transgender agenda, because I actually, when I transitioned gender, nobody sent me anything. It's really crazy. But there doesn't seem to be a transgender agenda. There just happens to be the human experience. In schools, there's an agenda, so you should be able to get a PDF or something. If you can email me the PDF, I've got a contact page from the first URL below. I'll be looking forward to seeing that, Nick. I'm going to catch up on other things here. So, got your birth certificate changed. Oh my gosh, 2019 in Texas. Yeah, I bet you, Louise, it would be impossible to change your birth certificate in Texas now. So let's see. Oh no, I'm sorry, Angela. Oh, what a bummer. So Angela says she was with a straight man and he ended up dying. That's it. I'm sorry about that. Louise makes an excellent point here. A building can have a blueprint, but alterations can be made in the construction. I also want to point out, so early in my educational career, early in my life, I was very interested in genetics. And part of the reason why I was interested in genetics is because I thought maybe I would be able to fix myself. Which, Nick, if you're still here, I considered myself not to have a mental illness, but to have an actual physical illness, that I had some sort of genetic disorder. And so that went with me through my undergraduate years where I ended up, I started working on molecular biology, particularly genetics, and then I switched over into chemistry. But my point was going to be, you may... All right, I just got to read this. My transgender agenda: wake up, get dressed, eat breakfast. Yep. So with chromosomes, there are two chromosomes that make a difference. The sex chromosomes. It's chromosome pair 23. And incidentally, I have a video that talks about all of this, about the genetics. Nick, if you're interested, go to my YouTube page. I have a playlist called Gender Education, and you'll see a picture of me holding a DNA molecule that will talk about some of this. But the chromosome pair 23, one of those is an X, and the other one is contributed by the father. The Y chromosome, as far as genetics goes, as far as biochemistry goes, as far as human development goes, has really about one gene that makes a damn bit of difference, really. So Nick, I'm curious. What I want to do is I want to send you Project 2025, because Nick now has sent me the first arrival that popped up. It's pushed in mostly all colleges. If the agenda you're talking about is that biology is not identity, same point I'm making right here. That Y chromosome has one gene on it. It's called the SRY gene. And that SRY gene makes something called the SRY protein. And that protein stimulates the mother to secrete testosterone. And that's what kickstarts human development, male reproductive part development. The Y chromosome does not guarantee male reproductive parts. Neither does the X chromosome. If the father contributes an X chromosome, neither does the X chromosome guarantee female reproductive parts, because it's been observed that the SRY gene will translocate, cute little name there, I thought, translocate, but it will go to the X chromosome. So the father could even contribute genetics that has an SRY gene, so you can have male reproductive parts in somebody with an XX genotype. But it gets even crazier than that, because it turns out that SRY gene can translocate even to the allosomes, which are the chromosomes that do not contribute to sex determination. So here was my point here. If you're going to call, Nick, the agenda that genetics does not define sex and sex does not define gender, how do I feel about it? I feel really good, because I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I was told that because I had a particular physical structure, I was unallowed to be the person I was. Do you know how badly that hurts? It hurts really badly. I lived 52 years with people telling me, you have to be this person. And so you may think to yourself, well, that's a mental illness. Oh, it's a mental illness that I was, suppressed by my social environment? Believe me, Nick, you need to talk to more transgender people as opposed to talking to your religious leaders or your political leaders. All right. So Angela, you asked, when did I first know that I was the wrong gender? That was one of the first things I talked about. I didn't understand gender. I mean, I certainly knew by I was about 4 or 5, same as you, that I was different, that I was being treated in a way I didn't want to. I don't think that implies I knew I was transgender, because I didn't know why I was treated differently. And maybe this is a semantic distinction. It's a semantic distinction. But I wouldn't say that I really truly understood I was transgender until right around the time puberty kicked in. So, mid-1980s or so. Okay, so Mac Evil, Scottish, I guess. It's Ewan MacEvil asks the question, when did I figure out I was transgender? I think I answered that, hopefully. And then when did I start? So I was just railing against Nick here and his transgender agenda. I did not start gender transition until 2022. So I was 52 years old. And that's, for what it's worth, pretty late in life. I know other people who have started transition later, in their 60s, people who said, well, I had to wait until I retired and transition then. People who said, I'm going to wait not only after I'm retired, but my wife dies or whatever. I don't know that there is a right time to transition, but I was saying earlier on, and if you want, MacEvil, you can look back at least on YouTube. You can go through earlier parts of this. I've lost my train of thought. That was really well done. Where was I going? Good goddess, where was I going? Oh, I do remember. Sorry. What I was going to say, I was saying earlier about, when none of us wants to do this. So Genevieve says 60 years old for her. None of us wants to do this. Each of us has to do this. There's not a choice. You end up getting to a point where there just isn't a choice. You either do that or ultimately you have to die. So I don't know if Motzi has, I'm not really sure what that is. Maybe were you trying to write pervert? I'm not really sure what that's supposed to be. Evan Renault has asked, hopefully I pronounced your name correctly, Evan, has asked, what's my PhD in? That's a good question. So I mentioned earlier my early education was in biology. It was molecular biology, specialization in genetics. I ended up switching over into chemistry. This was at University of California in San Diego. I switched over to what they called straight chemistry. Maybe a little bit offensive there. Is there a gay chemistry? Was there just in general a queer chemistry? I don't know. Why is that? So, but I switched over to chemistry and then ultimately went on to, I got a job in a lab where I did electrochemistry. And so ultimately when I went to go get a PhD, it is in analytical chemistry. Much of what I learned is experimental design, data analysis, and that's why I enjoy doing things like tearing apart the CAS reports. Easily torn apart, especially if you have a background in data analysis, data science in general. You can look at some of the the experimental design and the data that's actually brought in. Does it support the conclusions that she comes to? Quick answer, no. So hopefully, Evan, that answered it sufficiently. My PhD is in analytical chemistry. All right. Zidane Rick, hopefully I said that right. Why do the vast majority... All right, I'm going to read this. Why do the vast majority of trans females run Linux? It's a really interesting thing I've noticed when hanging out with a lot of different communities. So I'm going to tell you. I wrote an article. It was like in the first month or so that I started writing. So I think it was like November of 2022. And the name of the article is, Why Are There So Many Transgender People in Technology? I think that's the verbatim title. You can go to the second one down, genderidentitytoday.com, and just search for technology and you'll see. But my thought there, and I don't, my hypothesis, take it or leave it, but my hypothesis was that most of the people who are transgender have difficulty expressing masculinity. This is pretty much all true. It's difficult for us to get into things like football. It's difficult for us to get into other majorly masculine leaning fields. We're not going to be in some of those. And so I think technology actually soaks up a lot of people, so especially because when you are transgender, can we dump Ryan N with your Trump 2020 whatever? Jeez. When you are, well, see, I shouldn't look over there. Why am I doing that? So what I was going to say is that I believe that when you are transgender, you also have to think very deeply about things. And so you have a mind for complicated things. How about if I just say complicated things? And I'm not trying to say that Linux will never be a great desktop operating system. I'm currently running Windows, but I think that's part of it. I think we get kind of pushed into STEM type things that don't require a lot of masculinity. And then we, we have a tendency to overthink things. And so I think I'll run with that. Hopefully, Rick, that did it for you. I don't know. But it is true. It seems there's a tremendous number of transgender women in technology. So, all right. So, okay, so here's a great, let me check this really fast. Do I have a good relationship with your parents? My father died in 2009. For what it's worth, his widow reached out to me at one point, and I said, listen, here's my new name. Please update your contact list. And she said, I'm glad your father's not alive to see this, which is a bummer. I can't believe that somebody would say, I'm glad your father's dead. That being said, I sent her an article that I wrote. Because my father and I never had a good relationship. We never did. Both of my parents are just before baby boomers. They're both silent generation. And neither of them is good at making relationships, period, I would say. This is a great question, Tremere. This might be a bit, So I sent this person, her name is Betty. I'll just throw that out there. I sent Betty this article that I had written about my father, because I got her email and I thought, what would my father have thought? And I think, because my father was physically abusive, my father was emotionally abusive, and I have no doubt my father was able to watch the emotional difficulty that I went through for 52 years. And I believe if I had gone to my father and said, here's something I'm doing, I think he would have gone, you know what? Good. Well done. Because I think he would have cared that I was more who I was as opposed to who he wanted me to be. Because clearly I wasn't who he wanted me to be. And there you go. So Chuck asks the question, and I want to answer this first. Chuck asks the question, do I do training for adolescents and young adults? Quick answer is no. I am actually in process. This is somewhat of an announcement, doing this on a live stream. I am somewhat in process of putting together a coaching program, but it would not be for adolescents or young adults. I am a great project manager. I'm great at putting together long-term goals, great at making tasks. I'm not great at therapy, I would say. And so I don't know if Moist Nix over here on YouTube, do I like therapy? I don't like giving therapy. I don't know if you meant, do I like my own therapy myself? For the most part, therapy, I believe, is effective if you do the work on yourself as well. And I tend to do work on myself quite a bit. So, all right, moving back to MacEvil. At what point will you take your transition further? So, great question. I actually in April of this year, I started a vlog called Amy in Thailand. If you go on YouTube, you can find the playlist there. And that documented what it took me to get to Thailand to get gender affirming surgery, the healing that I did while I was in Thailand, and then now since coming back. And I have another one that I'm going to be posting October 11th, which will be my 3 month 3 months since gender affirming surgery. So I have actually done the vaginoplasty. I did actually get implants, not much. I actually responded to estrogen very well, particularly for being 52. So I did get some implants, although this is about 2/3 me. I'm not sure what you can see, but facial feminization surgery. I'm 52. I don't have a lot of desire to do the facial feminization surgery. I also, my whole life, people have said, oh my gosh, look at how pointed your jaw is. It's so feminine. Look at your bone structure. It's so feminine. And I go, whew, boy, am I glad I had that my whole life, because I think it's now served me. So to answer your question, MacEvil, I have, I have done all that. I'm actually finished both with my social and my medical transitions. And that's part of why I think I'm qualified to do some of this coaching, because I think not only do I have a bunch of resources at this point, because I had to do voice training and I had to do HRT and I had to figure out options for surgery, and that's what I'm willing to coach on. So, all right, going back. So here we go. Louise says an interesting thing about changing my birth certificate is that you had trouble changing it because you had another identity for 40 years. Oh my gosh. It's so ridiculous. Why do we have all these documents? I'm really curious. Like, do they do something? I mean, I've had an argument with somebody who says, no, what I said, Ocean PM is coaching transgender women to get to the woman they know they are. But I appreciate your crummy comment. All right. So let me see. Grandma Rose. Do I think people feel a bit more free to be themselves online? Well, let me just start with that. So my first email address I got, I think, 1994. How about if I say that? Hi, Riot. 1994. So I remember when AOL Instant Messenger was new. I remember chat rooms. I remember MUDs, etc. Do people feel more free to be themselves online? Absolutely. Do you think Elon Musk, if he showed up to my house, would say the kinds of things? Let me rephrase that, because he's never said anything to me. But if Elon Musk went to Taylor Swift's house, do you think he would say, I'll give you a baby? I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. Yes, people are very free to be, if you want to say themselves, they're certainly free. They certainly feel more free to express crummy opinions online. There you go. I think people who do spend online are probably more likely to be tech-minded, but I also think that they would be more introverted, in which case I would tend to guess introspective as well. So, which again, social expectations, you generally have trouble being masculine like that. So, what do I got over here? Ocean is secretly J.K. Rowling. No! Oh my gosh. J.K. Rowling showed up to my live stream? That's pretty impressive. And Grandma Rose, if you were curious, Leas, it's certainly not hard to spot men raised by single mothers. Well, thank you, first of all. However, I'm not even sure what that name is. Thank you for impugning my mother. I will do the impugning here, okay? If there's impugning to be done, I am the impugner. I don't need you for any impugning. But I do appreciate, you dropping by. All right, here we go. What do we got? So sorry your father was abusive. I appreciate that. I mean, I've come to grips with that. I didn't finish the rest of the question, I guess. I have never had good relationships with either of my parents, but none of my parents' children has had a good relationship with either of them. I don't know if my mother would ever see this, but I think it's pretty clear. So, all right, sorry your father was abusive. Yeah, well. Oh gosh, I haven't finished that story. I sent that person an article. I sent Betty this article that said, listen, I had a hard childhood. My father was abusive, blah, blah, blah. She emailed me back. No joke, Grandma Rose. She emailed me back and said, oh my gosh, I had no idea what happened when you were a kid. I'm so sorry. And was 100%, well, I don't want to say 100% supportive, but was at least like, listen, a blessing upon you. Go and live your best life. So take that for what you will. She started off with a mean comment, but I believe, here is my humor while sharing valuable information is refreshing. I think you got to do this. I think you have to do that. And by the way, X, whatever your person's name is here, X Dem, you'll never find a T that had a normal loving childhood. Wrong. I can think of two off the top of my head. You're wrong. You listen to your political leaders and you listen to your religious leaders. You are clearly not like some sort of an expert in this. Ask a transgender person. All right, what else do we have? Angela says she couldn't pretend any longer. So yeah, when you were about 30 years old, the bank allowed you to change. See, it becomes something that you either do or literally you die. It's not something we choose. It's not something we go, gosh, this is going to be great. So I can't wait to be ostracized from society. I can't wait until Nick and, Ryan and ex-Dems, come and harass me. This will be great. What a wonderful life. Camille, hi. I love you too. All right, thank you for hosting this. So, oh no, oh gosh, that's right. Elon Musk does live in Austin now. Well, hopefully you don't see him. If you do, could you accidentally plug him with an apple or something from afar? I mean, accidentally. Just for chucks. I think it would be worth it. All right. There has been a whole lot that we've gone through here. I'm truly stunned at the outpouring here. Thank you. I will answer this question. What's my favorite Chick-fil-A meal? Well, Chick-fil-A, for those of you who don't know, is owned by a very religious organization, or is a very religious organization that contributes to causes I would not support. And so as a result, oh, you love their nuggets, don't you? Yeah, good on you, man. It's really good on you. So I haven't gone to Chick-fil-A since I found that out, which would have been like the 1990s. And I would have no idea what their menu looks like now. But whatever it is, I just hope that, they're pleased that the nuggets they sell to you also go to, harming many other people. So I guess well done on supporting them too. I'm having a good time with this guy. So I know he's going to start harassing me everywhere I go, isn't he? All right. Oh, you see Cyber... No, wait a minute. You see a purple Cybertruck? Oh, I almost would, maybe consider that. All right. Okay. I was going to cut this short, but I'm going to tell you, I just got this question. What was the thought process when you were choosing a new name? What does Amethysta mean, and how does it represent me? This is going to be a bit of a story. Okay, so forgive me on this. Just forgive me. All right, here's a quick comment. I feel sorry for people for whom the best chicken anywhere near them is Chick-fil-A. Let me just say, I don't want to mess up your name, but let me just say, first of all, that you used for whom. I love you already, so I want to be friends with you, okay? All right, so my name. Let me tell you, I did not choose this name. In 2020, I was going to start playing a video game. It's called Final Fantasy 14, all right? In 2020, I started this game, and I wanted to make a purple cat girl, but I was denying myself, and I said, no, I'm going to make a purple cat boy. So I made a purple cat boy, and I named that cat boy Amethysta. This character still exists, actually. I didn't delete him. But at some point, I got this thing. It's called a vial of Fantasia. What it does is let you change anything about the character. So, except for the name. But when I had been playing the game, many people had said, Amethysta is a girl's name. What's the deal with the boy character? But I chose Amethysta because it was purple. I love purple, clearly. And I also like gems. Gems are durable. Like if you get at a gold crown, I don't care what it is. If you get something that's gold, you can melt that thing down, turn it into, did you do a cat girl on Final Fantasy 14, Julie? Now we're going to FF14 all up. But so anyway, you can melt that down, turn it into coins, turn those coins back into a crown, whatever. But a gem, you can't. A gem is just there. a gem you have, like, if you cut that down, now you just have two amethysts that are probably worth less. So I like gems as well. And so that's where Amethysta, the name, came from. So how the hell, oh, Julie, we'll have to connect on that. So how did I end up getting the name Amethysta? In 2022, so in 2020, let me start differently, because in 2021, I had a big breakdown, really horrible breakdown, and my wife said to me, listen, what I need you to do is explore your gender identity, because I will tell you this right now. When my wife and I first went on a date, our very first date, okay, because we thought, you might be fun. So what we did was, let me tell you all the crummy things about myself. And so, I'm like, well, I have some mental health issues, I have voices in my head. Oh, and also I'm a girl. I am part woman, part man. And she said, oh, that's interesting. Wow, beat that. I'd love to see that someday. But she knew from the very first date, the very first. It's been 24 years. Thank you, Shay. I appreciate that compliment. So she's known. So she encouraged me at the end of 2021 to transition gender. And so I did, 2022. Like I said, I started hormone therapy, hormone replacement therapy. And I was thinking about what name am I going to use? So somewhere in here, and there was no, I wanted to be creative. So I started writing fiction stories about this little purple cat girl. Incidentally, ex-dem whatever. Angela also had a great family life. Her mother accepted her. She was born in the 1920s. Just saying. So, in any event, the point here is that I started writing these fiction stories about her, because I always loved like the Harley Quinn type character, seems like a dingbat, but then comes in and goes, oh my gosh, guess what? It turns out I have a Ph.D. in psychology, and this is why I can analyze certain things. I've always loved that, that character, that type of character. So I was writing these Amethysta stories about that character, and sooner or later it became clear that, like, I was writing stories that I wish I could play in. And somewhere in here, it's an interesting little thing. Somewhere in here, I had a very wise woman tell me, this is, you are Amethysta, now you are Amethysta. And I disagreed. I'm like, well, I wasn't going to use that word. It's like a stripper name. And it comes from, a video game character. I'm not using that. But somewhere in there, it started to work. And the fiction that I was writing about this character, which was really fiction about myself, that I wish could have been myself, it started to be true. And the stories applied to me. And literally I became Amethysta. And so that's where that came from. It was originally a knockoff name that I, never intended to go anywhere, but ended up being a very big discovery, ended up being a big process of discovery. And that's why I kept it. Hopefully that answered your question, MechEvil. Okay, I got some things on TikTok. Give me a sec. But did I say you might be fun? I don't even know. All right. Yes, I do have a shorter name. I use Amy, not with AMIE, but AMI, like Amazon machine image as well. So Amy is great. I love that one because it's much easier. And look, now I have my one of my nieces just said hi. Hi, niece. Oh my gosh. So, all right. I have a couple. There's a couple of things over here. Shay says, I'm one of the bravest people I know of. Somebody else says, there's nothing brave. Soldiers are brave. Okay. I mean, I think bravery is the ability to do something when there's going to be backlash that, that you have given a transgender slur, Mac, I'm standing up to that. Is that not brave? So there you go. Let's see. Planning to open the books to... Oh my gosh, no. Well, I mean, for what it's worth, I don't know which of my two nieces this is, but Pegomastax, I don't know how to say that. They are actually still out on, what's it called? The Lodestone, the Final Fantasy XIV Lodestone. So you can still go see them, but there you go. All right. Let me see. That this hair is brave. Are you kidding me? It's like 5 hours. Oh, Malia. Hi, Malia. I was thinking actually you were one of Amy's kids. There you go. Sorry, everybody. It's a family reunion. But so where was it going to go? Oh, yeah, the hair is brave. It's like a 5-hour kind of process. I know you're trying to say something pissy, but I'm actually going to turn it around. It takes a lot to go and sit in a salon for 5 hours. So there you go. So Ewok Mermaid. This is not one I've seen before. Impressive. Says, talk about John Money and Hugh Hefner. I don't know. Mac Evil did not say something wrong. Mac on TikTok did. Forgive me, Mac Evil. I was hoping it wouldn't, translate over. Now you can see. Wasn't you? It's him. So, talk about John Money and Hugh Hefner. I think John Money is actually a fascinating case study. I don't know if case study is what I want to use. If you don't know who John Money is, John Money, early 1950s, started writing about gender. He called himself a sexologist, right? A sexologist. So he started writing, he started studying his own clientele and said, look, I know everything about sex and gender. And there was actually a patient, a particular famous case. I'm now blanking on the person's last name. David Reimer. There we go. There was a famous case where there was a child that was born. I guess the word we use is as hermaphrodites. Was intersex, even more than intersex, actually presented with both types of genitalia, both reproductive parts, at least externally. And so somebody went to John Money, said, you're an expert. You ought to know. What should we do? And John Money said, well, that's cool, because what you can do is just cut one piece off, right? Because it doesn't make a difference. Form or function follows form. Apparently also was not a Frank Lloyd Wright fan. Who knows? But so he recommended just cut off David's male reproductive parts. So all David's life, David knew he was not a girl, and ultimately transitioned back to presenting as a man, and then not long after committed suicide, because it's really dang hard when society forces a role upon you so that you have to fulfill it. And I don't, again, Ewok Mermaid, I suspect you weren't saying this so that I would go, ooh, you got me. But I was able to turn it around. John Money is an exceptional example of a failure to equate physical structure with identity. And I think he pretty much proved it exceptionally well. I don't know where Hugh Hefner comes into this, unfortunately. Maybe I got to do some research. I don't even really know. But I'll run with it. So, all right. I actually started this almost an hour and a half ago. I am stunned at the turnout. If there's ever, let me see, it's never hard when you accept who you are at birth. No confusion, no problems, no BS. So, let me just tell you something, Sally. You ever gotten a haircut? You ever dyed your hair? Did you wear makeup at all, Sally? You ever change your clothes? Like, are you still wearing the diapers that you had at birth? Is that what you do, Sally? Is that the way you've lived your life, Sally? Has been no haircuts, no special glasses, no nothing, everything. You haven't painted your fingernails, you haven't grown them out, you haven't gotten hair dye, you haven't worn a bra, you haven't done any of these things? Did you accept who you are at birth? Look deep inside, Sally, and ask yourself, because there's a difference between accepting who you are at birth and forcing somebody else to accept whom you want them to be at birth. There is too confusion. Maybe you, no, Joker, actually, hang on. Boy, now I'm getting some good tidbits. Joker 304 says 99% of people know that what they are born is what they are. 1% have a mental illness. So first of all, your statistics suck because at the very least, running on 5% of the population identifies as at least gender unsure. At least 5%. There is still a large stigma around gender issues in Western society. I would guess, based on people I've spoken to, many transgender people, many non-binary people, it's closer to 10%. Oh, that's untrue. Oh, that's untrue. Is it? I'm going to need you, Joker. You and Nick should get together. Send me some stuff. I don't know where you're getting your 1%, but for what it's worth, it's wrong. It's just wrong. And, you can send me comments in text, but the point is that it's wrong. You got that statistic from a political or a religious leader. First of all, if you're going to address me, you will address me as ma'am, or you can get out of my live stream. Thank you very much. All right. What do I think are the main issues that people got wrong about the trans populace, particularly about trans women? Well, I think the big one, MacEvil, is where that came from. I think the big main issue that people get wrong is, first of all, what we keep on seeing here, over on TikTok, that most people have a mental illness, transgender people have a mental illness, and I want to, you are not going to address me as you see fit. Is there some way I can dump your ass from this? Because really, Joker 304, you should care about my live stream. Because if you're that big of an asshole, really, if you got to be that big of an asshole, like what you need to do is buy yourself a puppy so you can kick it. If this is the only way you can get kicks is through anonymity, start making fun of somebody for being the person she is, I really feel sorry for you. Really feel sorry that this is all you got in your life. And I hope that, someday you'll look inside and go, do I really want to be this big of a dick? And I hope you realize, no, you don't want to be this big of a dick. Because this has done nothing. You've said calm down, and I'm addressing you perfectly calmly. And I don't know, man, if that's what you got on a Saturday afternoon, I'd say maybe find yourself a book. Anyway. All right, the main issues that people get wrong, I believe, is all about mental illness. We have this belief. Western society has this belief that, okay, you believe, oh, so hang on, this is great. So here we go. Yeah, I actually don't really kick a puppy for what it's worth. But so Isabel says she's trans, believes gender dysphoria is a mental issue. So if it isn't, why would we need medical care for it? So mental disorder. My belief is that everybody feels gender dysphoria. Everybody feels gender dysphoria. Sally here, who at some point may have gotten a haircut, changed something about herself because she failed to fulfill some social expectation. Maybe she wanted short hair, but nobody liked her in short hair, so she grew it back out. Maybe somebody said, I want you to look differently. And so I think gender dysphoria is the primary way. Oh yeah, no, Isabel, everybody does too experience gender dysphoria. Let me ask you, I want to recommend something to you, if you don't mind. Go to one of your best friends and ask that person if he or she ever played sports when they were young. And if that person played sports, did they ever strike out, miss a basket, whatever? And if that person felt bad about it, it's because there are social expectations. Like anybody I've ever, if you've played Little League, which I did, and I was horrid, anytime some kid struck out, almost invariably that kid would cry because there were expectations. That kid wanted to make sure that his parents saw him be good at sports because there is a social expectation. And what that is, Isabel, I believe, It's gender dysphoria. It may be an acute sense of gender dysphoria, and I believe transgender people have a chronic sense of gender dysphoria. Absolutely. Otherwise, as you've mentioned, we wouldn't need medical care for it. But if I take off my glasses, this is medical care as well. But this is not a mental illness. This is a normal human experience that some people end up with eyes that just happen not to function particularly well. It's a normal human experience. And so my point, Isabel, finally, and actually I think this feeds into MechEvil, is that normal human experiences are not necessarily pathological. We have called them pathological, and actually to answer your question more explicitly, why do we need medical care for it? Because Western society only addresses pathologies. If you want medical care, you either pay for it yourself or you get an insurance code, which means you have to go to a doctor, which means the doctor has to find a pathology. But I don't think just because we've classified something as a pathology that necessarily it is. And I'm just going to say, I mean, it used to be, if you look at evolutionary psychiatry, they have considered things like anxiety, fear, dissociative disorders. We're going to just use the word disorder. Many things that we call pathologies, evolutionary psychiatrists have called these evolutionary advantages. They help the species survive. Are those well classified as pathologies? Because I don't actually think so. I really don't think so. So, all right, I want to move on to a couple of things. I feel like now I'm getting scads of stuff. Let me see. Sometimes I really hate how people hate gay people. Good point. Through history, many cultures accepted it. You know what? Odysseus, I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Not many cultures accepted it, but almost all cultures revered it. In fact, it turns out that if you were outside the gender and the sexuality spectrum, you were generally a healer or an oracle or in some way thought of as magical. It used to be that people who fell outside the gender and sexuality norms were the people who conferred sovereignty. So a quick story, actually. So certified ADA advocate, I bet you it did. I bet you we could find it. Says never experienced gender dysphoria. I bet you we could find it. But so if you like Alexander of Macedon, okay, Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great at one point went and conquered Jerusalem. Jerusalem in modern day Israel, right? The birthplace of Christianity where there are no gay people, right? First thing Alexander did by going into, when he went to Jerusalem, was to go right outside of Jerusalem, where there was a group of gender fluid and sexuality fluid people who were the ones who conferred his sovereignty. They made him the king. He went there to get the I don't know what the word I want to use, but he went there to get their approval, because those were the people who conferred sovereignty, who truly made him the king of Jerusalem, at least at that time. So anyway, Odysseus, you're right. I mean, many cultures accepted it. I would take it even further. Most cultures revered it. So, all right, I'm going to go back to TikTok because I got Joker here, going nuts on me. But let's see, blah-de-blah. Yeah, that's all they've got. It's laughable. It is laughable without context or content. But let me see. What's my Ph.D. in? I actually already answered that one. It is in analytical chemistry. Fun times. Not really. All right, let's see. Joker, you're clearly a historian as well. Truly amazing. That's in no history book anywhere. Who wrote the history books? There's a line out of a Thrill Kill cult song. History is written by the winner, baby. Turns out that those people come from a very Judeo-Christian background. Of course, that's not in the history books because Christianity allegedly hates the LGBTQ community. So there you are. It's a cute story I'm making up. This is crazy. Oh my gosh, I've never gotten this kind of hatred. Part of me goes, wow, I've made it. Right? All right. No questions. Let me see. So, Chris, thank you. Let me see. Did I experiment with different gender identities? Ooh, gosh. All right. So, Grandma Rose has asked, did I experiment with different gender identities, or did I always feel that one day I would transition to female? Was it a process? Ignore the haters. So, I always expected, when I was young, I just thought I was a girl. Just purely thought I was a girl. By the time puberty kicked in, it was clear, no, or I was not female anyway. But by the time I was about 24, I came to grips with the idea that I am both, and that's fine. Ooh, Amy, Evil Frog, I do not have any mods, and I don't know how to do the mods. So maybe that's got to be done next time I do an AMA, right? So I came to a sense of peace. I came to a sense of peace that I was both woman and man, and I was okay with that. It really did. My gender identity didn't make a difference. The physical structure didn't make a difference. I thought there are ways that I do. Thank you, Mossgrove. I figured there are things I did that were masculine. There were things that I did that were feminine, and I didn't. It didn't make a difference to me necessarily. I did so when I was in graduate school. About the time I came to this sense of peace, I was presenting about part-time as a woman and part-time as a man. Probably mostly as a man, I would say. So was it a process? Yeah. I mean, when I was 31, I was 30, in the year 2000. Oh no, I take it back. It was 2001. I looked into the process of gender transition because by the time I was 30, I was well aware I wanted to go all the way to woman, to transition all the way to woman. And then it was really hard, by the way. I'll just say it was really tough in 2001, even in Los Angeles, to begin this process. But because it wasn't easy. So in any event, the point being that when that happened, when I saw it was going to be hard, I thought, because where did it say? Somebody said you had to be proved sane in order to get bottom search. Here we go. Angela says in England you have to get certified sane. It was the exact same in California in 2001. I had to go through 2, I might have been 3, psychiatrists, not people who are going to understand the thoughts, but the people who are medical doctors. So that was kind of strange. So I did not end up beginning the gender transition process then. So it was somewhat of a process. I was comfortable with myself. Ultimately, I was comfortable with myself. And then, to tell you the full truth, gosh, Joker's a joy. Now he's tearing into other people. I almost want to, you know what, can we all just give him a bunch of sympathy? You poor kid. What are you, 12? Living in your mom's basement and you got nothing better on your agenda for a Saturday afternoon? I'm sorry, man. That's a bummer. So anyway, so it was a process. It took me a long time to agree that I wanted to be truly, present 100% feminine. So I want to ask MacEvil, what did I miss? Actually, what did you didn't answer my question properly. I'd love to. I don't know why. Thank you, Syed. Just want to say I like you. Oh, I love that. Most of the international hate is from colonial Europeans. Very true. I'm going to run with you on that, Odysseus, because it also says you watched a documentary about Alexander the Great. They tried to hide the fact that Alexander was gay. Because it used to be that sexuality, nobody cared. Nobody cared about sexuality. Nobody cared about gender. It was just live your life, and if you were awesome, go at it. So let me see. Ignorant, yeah. Oh, I think Joker does need a hug. Oh my gosh, I'm totally gonna give you a hug. That's great. All right. So, what's my opinion? So, McEvil, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're typing that up. I wish I knew what you'd asked or what I missed. So, what's my opinion? The other one now asks, what is my opinion on 0.1% of the world's population dictating the English language, completely disregarding agreed grammar over centuries? I think this is an excellent question. And I know you're not asking it in a kind way because you have now used a false statistic, not 0.01, but a greater percentage of the population. I am very fond of grammar. I'm very fond of punctuation. And when I first started seeing non-binary people asking me to use the pronouns they, them, then I didn't like that, candidly. It didn't seem right because once again, somebody in the 16th century, I think it was the 16th century, some monk, Christian monk, wrote down a bunch of rules and said, this is what you do. I will also say I do my very best not to split an infinitive. I just did it. Not to split. I could have said to not split an infinitive. So there's no doubt I find it very important that grammar is very important, punctuation is very important. Now that being said, is a pronoun a critical part of a language? Because, every year, the Oxford English Dictionary, which I consider to be one of the real, the arbiters of the English language, then the OED always seems to come up with new words that get put in there. Like Googled became a verb. Email became a verb. And so as a result, language always evolves. Do I like how this has evolved? No, because my whole life what I've tried to do is use the masculine neuter phrase of a form of a pronoun. So there you go. You are boosting my live. Listen to Evil Frog. So where did that go? What did you ask me? Oh, here you go. What is the proper percentage? The proper percentage is closer to 10%. There are gender fluid people. Yeah, 10% of Gen Z. And the thing is, it's not just Gen Z. I mean, why would it only be Gen Z? We have two people who transitioned in the 1970s. Who are these people? Do they know other people their age? You bet they do. This is not a brand new thing. We want to make it seem like it's a brand new thing. Like John Money was the first one that came up with the idea of using gender. But it's untrue. It's really untrue. So let me see. So in many languages, yes. Well, you know what the thing is? There are also many languages. Hungarian is an incredible example. And I can use this because my mother-in-law is Hungarian. She struggles with pronouns because in Hungarian, everything is knit. My water bottle is knit. My candle is a knit. I am an it. You are an it, just so you know. So in that, I think that makes a lot of sense. Why do we care about these things? If you look at many other Romantic languages, Latin and Spanish are two big ones. French is another one where, not only do you have to match the adjective with the noun, so you have to know what's the gender of the noun. And some of these, like in Spanish, la radio. Okay. Is that masculine or feminine? Well, both, turns out. Isn't that fun? So if I want to wrap this up, which I do because I love etymology and I could talk about language all dang day. If I want to wrap this up, what is my opinion? Language is weird. And if you're okay with people dictating the English language with Googling and emailing, then the idea that 99.9% of the rest of the population gives a flying fuck. I mean, most people don't care. So there you go. All right. You are an it. All right, let me see. So what is the main issues that people get wrong? Oh, did I not answer the bit about getting wrong? Because I think what people get wrong, for the most part, MechEvil, sorry, to reread the question, what do I think are the main issues that people get wrong, particularly about trans women, is that it is a mental illness. And that's where I think I would just end. We have the tendency, Western society has the tendency to put the label of pathology on normal human experiences, typical human experiences. That's not just transgender people. I think that is in general the population. And the idea that what I did was because of a mental illness as opposed to thinking that other parts of my social environment are important than the ones you think are important, I think that's absolutely wrong. And I don't know if we ended up losing Isabel. Hopefully that ended up being a decent explanation for her as well. So, all right, let's see. Wait, I don't need your sympathy, but apparently you want everyone else's because you can't decide genders? Can you decide my gender, Joker? I mean, what in the what? Oy. I'm all done with this guy. I'm sorry. All right, let's see. Which is increased. Let me see. So Linda is a 60-year-old lady who loves Jesus. She empathizes with my struggle. Not to mention, I want to mention. So Linda says she's a 60-year-old lady who loves Jesus and has been watching my videos since my transition. Well, yeah, okay, since I was going to Thailand, I guess. You empathize with my struggle. Thank you. If we worked together, we would be friends. Do you know what, Linda? I 100% agree. I think if we spoke, I think you would understand where I am coming from. And I think you would actually see it as some of the same process that you did. I had two podcasts that I did. Let me take a drink. I had two podcasts with a very, very lovely friend of mine named Danny Velasquez Mora. And Danny Danny has a marketing company and an advertising company. And so I originally interviewed her to say, listen, what's important about representation in marketing? Because she wants good representation of women in advertising. So I said, well, why is that important? And she gave me, a great answer, which is that when we see people like we are doing exceptional things, it teaches us we can do exceptional things as well. And I thought, what a phenomenal answer. That's great. I've never heard, why do we want diversity? Why do we want equity? Why would we want inclusivity? Because what it does is help the entire human race recognize what it can do. The entire human race can improve. The second time we talked, Danny said, what I want to do is interview you. Because she goes, I'm curious what it's like being a transgender woman and nobody advertises to you. Nobody markets to you. What's that like? And I said, yeah, that's fascinating. Let's do that. So she asked me a couple of questions, and she asked me many questions, but the real point of the matter here, Linda, which hopefully you're still there, is that she said, well, what's one of the biggest struggles when you started? And I said, well, I would go to like a department store. It was really super hard for me to find clothes. Because first of all, I'm size 18 already. That's not easy. I'm 5'9" right now. So, it's harder to find clothes for me. And it was even worse when I was going to go into a dressing room carrying a dress and people would look at me and go, what the what? So that was difficult. And I said, it was the hardest part for me was trying to figure out what clothes worked for me. Because there's no book that you just go, all right, let me see the book of Amethysta. Chapter 1, verse 1. You should wear, empire waists. I didn't get that. And I got to the end of that story and I said, what's interesting though, Danny, is that you probably did the same. And she goes, oh yeah, absolutely. She goes, well, what about makeup? How is that hard to get makeup? And I said, well, so with makeup, I had to figure out, I have hooded eyelids, I have to wear different eyeliner, different eyebrows, whatever. And I said, so that's been a struggle. Kind of like you, probably, Danny. And she said, oh, actually, yes. Very true. So try to wrap this bit up here is just to say that, Linda, yeah, I think we have very similar experiences. I think everybody in the human species has very similar opinions and very similar experiences, and our differences are of opinions. That maybe you don't want me wearing makeup, and I can understand that. You know, there are people I've seen wearing makeup that I go, you know what, maybe that was a bit excessive. You know, I would say that. But I think it's all the human experience. The things that I've gone through in the past couple of years, learning how to express myself as a woman is nothing different from what pubescent girls are going through. My nieces, I might add. I don't know if you want to jump in here, Pego. But so there you go. Hopefully that answered everything there, Linda. All right, so the other one, so you're not, there's the other one, we're back on language. The thing is that I'm going to go with what Odysseus says. Yeah, language is literally just sounds. It's not that deep. So I don't, there you go. In certain countries, the way they teach homosexuality is a forced transition. Okay, I have heard that. I don't know if it's true. Syed says may technically be non-binary. There you go. Just call yourself a feminine gay guy because you don't use they, them. Ooh, the other one. What's my opinion on J.K. Rowling? This has not been asked. I'm going to, actually before I do I have pets? I do. I have a lovely cat named Sapphire. She has blue eyes. She's named after a gem. I'm named after a gem. It's a perfect match. My opinion on J.K. Rowling, I don't really want to talk about her a ton. I suspect, she made one comment about people who menstruate and said, yeah, we have a word for that. That's women. And I think it was supposed to be a joke. This is my opinion, okay? But I think it was supposed to be a joke. And she got jumped on for that. And she went, I'll have you know I'm J.K. Rowling, bitch. And so leaned into it. And that leaning into has continued to get more and more effed up. And I feel badly for her. I loved the Harry Potter series. I still do. I really do. And I struggle to divorce the deplorable actions and thoughts and words of the artist from the art. And that's my opinion on J.K. Rowling. All right, MacEvil says, I want to ask you a question that has been brought in the recent years. I'm asking it with no malicious intent. What is a woman? All right, I am actually this will be the last one too, because I started this at 1:00. I can't believe it. It's almost 3. It's amazing. I love this. All right. What is a woman? Syed says a woman is a human. And Camille has asked, how do you define yourself? And the thing is, and Odysseus says, doesn't think that the government should be able to decide certain things like what you can do with your body. I believe very strongly that, first of all, man and woman are not strict definitions. Because if you were to go, stay with me for a sec, if you were to go to Southeast Asia, well, Japan in particular, and ask what is feminine. Interestingly, a lot of what is feminine in Japan, as far as I understand, and I'm not been there, but this is what I hear, it's short hair for women, no makeup. Most of the makeup purchased in like Southeast Asia and Japan is purchased by men. So what is a woman? What is a man? It's kind of context specific, isn't it? When I was in Thailand, I saw 2 men, just beautiful men. They advertised everything. I don't know why. Toothpaste, everything. And I remember seeing a billboard and thinking, if I could look like that when I was like 12 years old, would I have gone through everything I did that got me here to get here? Because I don't think I would have. I really don't think I would have. And so in any event, what is masculine, at the very least, in Thailand is different from what's masculine here in the United States. And so I believe, at the very least, here's my belief now, I believe that gender is composed of four categories, and I have a lot of other videos about this. If you want to see them, let me know. You can find a bunch of this on genderidentitytoday.com. But I believe very strongly that identity and gender are composed of four categories. One of them is physical, so the way you look. But one of them is cognitive, the way you feel, the way you think, the logical paths you take. One of them is behavioral. How do you act? Especially, in context of your social environment. And the last one is spiritual. So how we view ourselves in context of the universe and our social environment. So what is a woman? Well, it depends, at least in parts, on the social environment. Because even if you were in small town Georgia, what's a woman is different from Southern California, which is different from Seattle, which is different from Manhattan. So it's a context-sensitive composite, complex is the word I should use, of those four aspects: physical, cognitive, behavioral, and spiritual. So that's gender in general, not what is a woman, but woman and man are aspects of masculinity. I mean, it's aspects of masculinity or aspects of femininity. It's a complicated question, and I know Matt Walsh did a phenomenal job, ridiculing, professors, when his ultimately what he said was, well, it comes down to genetics. And everybody who's taken a genetics class laughed their asses off, as we should have, because it was an absolutely foolish point to make. So there. I know I didn't answer your question, MacEvil. No circular definitions. That was the best I got. It's a complicated question. Because I would say, if you went back 1,000 years, what is a woman then? I mean, is it the same now? Because let's talk about pre-revolution France. Long hair, high heels, lavish makeup. We're very masculine. Long hair, lavish makeup, and high heels are very feminine now. So what was a woman then? Was it the same as a woman now? No. As language evolves, so does culture. So does fashion, so does everything. All right. MacEvil, you're biologically male, socially identify as agender. Hey, awesome. Look at you. All right. J.K. Rowling, don't know why anybody would be so obsessed. She is obsessed. Wow. When Elon Musk, has to swing in and go, hey, whoa, Joanne, Jojo, baby, dial it down a notch. You know something is wrong. Whew. All right. If I were alive 1,000 years ago, I would be a respected, wise woman. I don't know if that's applied to me. If so, I think so. But for other reasons than this. Tom Forsyth, I would love to give an example of which aspects of those are female. I'm running a little low on time. Obviously, there are physical aspects. Even if you were just to say, breasts. But then there are women without breasts that we know. Kate Moss was very feminine, but we call, yes, France before their empire. No, pre-revolution France. So not Napoleonic. But lost my train of thought. Oh, so sorry. So physical, obviously, there are physical characteristics like hips, boobs are feminine. Doesn't have to mean woman, of course. Cognitive, most men are they're going to look you in the eye and they're going to go, okay, I need you to do this. Go off and do this, and that's what you're going to do because I told you to do that. You're doing it, right? Right. No arguments. Women are different. Bye. So that's cognitive. Emotionally, men have different. We get told, don't, men are told, I'm not a man anymore, get told don't have any emotions. Women are not. And then spiritually, I think we definitely see ourselves differently. Men see themselves as the top of the pack. And women don't. I don't know how many women here want to jump in on that one. I don't, I've already been accused of not being able to claim that for myself. But women have a different place in society. So spiritual, behavioral, cognitive, and physical. Tom, I hope that did it for you. If it doesn't, I do have other materials. Please reach out. You can hit me at my email, first URL there, amethysta.io. Okay, I'm going to tell you I'm having a hard time continuing to talk. I did not expect this kind of turnout. I thought I was going to talk for 20 minutes, not 2 hours. So I just want to say everybody who came in here, especially if you like this or you think this or you gave me a little gift, thank you. You are the reason I continue to do what I do. And just to throw this out here too, Joker, I see you're gone, but Joker 304, you are also the reason I do what I do. Because I don't think the problem that we have here is not 304. I don't think the problem we have here is necessarily one of ignorance. I think it's one of learned ignorance. Funny way to put that. Learned helplessness, the desire to remain in a state of ignorance. And so it's a little worse than just ignorance. It's chosen. So, all right. I am going to go drink a tea or something. Thank you, Pego, Malia. Thank you, Tom. Can I name a positive masculine trait? Okay, I will. Yes. Sometimes men are very protective. And I believe that there are men out there who are capable of finding, hurt people and taking care of them. Most policemen, many firemen, many of the people who are interested in putting their lives on the line to keep other people safe, that is a positive masculine trait. All right. Gosh, there's so much more to talk about here, isn't there? Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Camille. Thanks for everything. You're going to go get ready for a school dance. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you again. I'll be back next week. Maybe not with an AMA, because holy cats, that was a lot. Bye. Thank you.